When you have an established life, there is a lot of gravity there. And gravity is the money you earn, the people you are working with, what a society expects from you, your followers, your family, your habits. So to abandon all that, to do something really different, is like a rocket breaking with the gravity on Earth. The first thing you must do is to be a bit crazy and to have a plan. To have a plan to say, okay, I am going to do that. Although I am scared, stick to the plan and see what happens. And that's why there are so many people who are unhappy with their lives, but they don't risk doing something else because they think they are going to lose what they got. To know a different reality, you must assume that you are going to lose everything and start from scratch.
Mindseed mit Leon Heimann.
Today's episode was recorded in Barcelona and originally conducted in English. If you prefer to watch it in German as usually on my channel, you can enable the translated audio track on my YouTube channel in the settings of the episode. Francesc Miralles is the author of Ikigai, one of the most successful books about purpose and fulfillment in the world. Alone, this book has been sold over 7 million copies and has been translated into more than 70 languages. But what's really interesting about his story is not just the success, it's that for a long time he himself didn't really know where he belonged. He was a poor student, often felt like an outsider and had the feeling that he didn't really fit into this world. Today he talks about purpose and fulfillment, but not in an esoteric or perfect way. Instead, very honestly, about the fear of change, about people who are unhappy but still stay where they are, and about the question of why so many people spend their whole lives chasing safety and eventually lose touch with themselves. I wanted to have this conversation because I believe so many people can relate to that. You function, you maybe even achieve things you once dreamed about, and still feel like something is missing. In this episode, we talk about how to find out what truly fulfills you, why happiness has more to do with direction than with coincidence, and why real change almost always means leaving something behind. And if you're interested into conversations about mental health and personal development, feel free to subscribe to my channel on YouTube or Spotify. That's the way you support the podcast and help us to continue having conversations like these. I hope you gain many inspiring insights from this conversation on the Mindseed podcast, your place for mental health and personal development.
Francesc,
Hello.
you're the author of one of the most famous books worldwide, Ikigai. For those who haven't heard of the concept, what is Ikigai?
Ikigai, we can translate it as purpose in life, reason to live, or the reason why you wake up in the morning with illusion, with energy. That would be Ikigai.
It's divided into 4 parts, like 4 circles. And then these circles, they create even more spaces for certain areas of life. Can we maybe roughly explain how this is concepted?
Our Ikigai book was the first one to be written and published. It's translated into 70 languages, but the 4 circles existed before as a marketing tool. And they are very useful to measure where our Ikigai is in this moment in our life. The first circle is what you love. That's the most clear clue of what could be your passion. If you like very much communication or listening to people or creating something, this could be your Ikigai. Second circle is what you are good at. So it's your natural gift, your natural talent. This is another clue for your Ikigai. If you're especially talented for the electric guitar or for writing about trips, then maybe your Ikigai would go in this direction. Third circle is the circle of money. Is in which way what you love and what you are good at can be something that you can monetize, that can be your your way of living. And the fourth one, that maybe is the most important, is what the world needs. And there is this other way to go to your Ikigai. You observe the world and you think, okay, I think the world needs kindness, better communication, better ideas, ecology. And then you go to the first two circles, to what you love and what you are good at, how to serve to what the world needs. That would be the diagram of Ikigai.
And what is the source of Ikigai? Where was it created the first time?
Yeah, actually, the concept of Ikigai, as it is now, it was created with our book. The word existed, but it was not a word that people used in the common conversations, not even in Japan. So it was a word more maybe philosophical, or they used it in some essays, but nobody was saying, what is your Ikigai? It came after our book. And so the source was a first trip together with Hector Garcia to Okinawa. We were investigating the blue zones, that are these parts of the world with higher longevity. And we saw that blue zone number 1 was in Okinawa, and more concretely in the village of Ogimi, called the village of the centenarians. And we wanted to know, how did they manage to live so long and so well? Because this is not only a matter of quantity, but also a matter of quality. These people live until they are 100, 105, 108 when we were there with National Geographic, but with a lot of energy, doing a lot of things, being very active. And we wanted to know the secret. And what we discovered was that together with good diet, movement, living outside, having good relationships, one key point was having an Ikigai. To have a long life, you must have a reason to live. If you don't like your life, you don't have a motivation to have good care of your body, of your brain, of your habits. So these people who find a passion, who find something that they love, they can live longer because there is a good reason to live.
And what was your first touch point with it? So was it the travel that you did?
Yes, actually, on the one side, we wanted to investigate longevity.
Mm-hmm.
It was not in the beginning a book about purpose, but it's curious because after the book was published, nobody was asking us about how to have a long life and what are the secrets to become 100. Everybody was asking about the purpose. That was a smaller part of the book, a couple of chapters maybe. And then we discovered that we were investigating longevity, but that we had written a book about life purpose, and that was what people wanted, what the humanity was waiting for.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's interesting. So you were looking for information for longevity, yes, but then you ended up writing, yes, a book about purpose.
Yes.
So how are these two connected?
These were like two topics into this book, but the issues about having a long life, the diet, they didn't seem to be so interesting to people, like the logotherapy, purpose in life, how to work in something that you are passionate about. So it was the readers who pointed what was the important part of the book. But we wrote about many other things in the same volume.
I think because everyone agrees, like, a long life doesn't serve you if you don't enjoy it.
Exactly.
Right?
You must enjoy, you must feel that you grow doing what you do, and you must feel that what you do has a positive impact into the world. I would say it's these three conditions.
Francesc, I'm interested into your personal story. You told me that you were in school, one of the worst.
Yes, one of
the worst. And you had like very bad, help me with my English, like we had bad grades, right? How was your path to get one of the most famous and most successful authors worldwide?
It was totally unexpected, and I think that if some of my teachers are still alive and they see what I am doing, they will think that it's a science fiction movie or something like that. Yes, I was very bad student because I couldn't concentrate. I felt very lonely. I had a difficult childhood, and I was a child of the back row of the school. Normally, in Spain, the good ones were in the first row, and I think maybe it's everywhere there.
Yeah.
And the bad ones in the back row so that they are not asked by the teacher.
Yeah.
And I read something very interesting that I want to share with you.
Yeah.
There is a book of Paul Arden. He's already died, a publicist. He said in a book called You Can Be As Good As You Want or something like that,
Yeah.
that why the kids of the first row didn't succeed in life. This is a chapter of his book.
Okay.
And he says that normally, and I can guarantee it was like that in my classroom, the kids in the first row, they are experts in past. They can remember exactly what the teacher said, what the book was written in there, what was written in the cardboard, etc. And the back row, they are experts in future. So the first ones, they are people that they can only repeat what was said before. But these people that are maybe not paying attention, we are thinking about what we'll do when we escape from school. And because of that, I think I was a failure as a student, but I was already thinking in many things that I wanted to create for my life.
And this path, when you think about it now, what do you see? What do you realize?
Yes, in this path, there are moments that are turning points. And normally these moments have to do with a certain person that appears, a kind of master, leader, mentor, guru. And in my case, in the end of the high school, I was a bit better. I tried to finish my studies, which I did, to go to university. And then I studied Anglo-Germanistic, English and German literature. And the German teacher, that was a woman, very, very strict, very hard. She was feared by all the classroom. We were like 150 people. She chose me to have the dialogue for beginners in German. So I thought, wow, if it's going to happen many times, better be prepared for that. And then I started, by that time, I had a lot of problems, psychological problems with obsession about health, about the world, about many things. I was always putting my energy in negative things. And then I decided to change the stream and put my energy only in German language. And so I obsessed with learning the irregular plurals, reading and writing and the grammar. And then I became the best pupil in my classroom. And this was the beginning of something different, because after that, I became a translator of books and then a publisher and many other things.
So what you describe is like a switch of energy, right? Like
Yes.
you were putting your energy a lot into negative things.
I was putting my energy in useless things,
I'm
in destructive
interested.
things.
I'm interested, Francesc. Why do you think you had this obsession with certain things? Like, when you think about it now, can you see why? Because I think a lot of people can relate to that.
Because in school we learn many things, but nobody is teaching us how to think in a positive way. And so it's easy that you get entangled in some mental circus and you cannot go out of there. It can happen to you if you are in love with a girl and maybe you are not correspondent, then you spend most of your time thinking of her, of him, whatever, or you can think about your health, or you can think about what will happen with the world, or you can think about your parents that they don't understand you. So all this is lost energy that goes to places where you don't have real action. It's something where you cannot have an impact in your life. So an Stoic philosopher would say, put your attention, your focus, your energy only in the things that you can control and that depend on me. When I was in university, learning German depended on me. So I thought, why not to put all this focus in something that is practical? And so the next time you have to have a conversation with your professor in front of the classroom, you can give something else. And so like a switch in my head, in my mind, I started being a good student.
I agree 200% with you that
It was a Pygmalion effect, you
Yeah.
know? The Pygmalion effect is according to the expectations I have from you, you react according with what I think that you are going to do. And this woman thought that I could be a good student, so I upgraded.
I agree with you. We should put on our energy into something we can control. And I know that as well. I told you before, like in my 20s, I had a lot of problems with committing to women, for example. I was always afraid to go into relationships. And I mean, I knew it that it's a problem. I knew I should put my energy more into solving this problem and be able to commit myself, because that's like a deeper relationship will serve you more, will, give you more energy also back in the end than to have like something superficial. But knowing that is not enough sometimes.
No, because you must know how to do it.
Exactly.
It's difficult because you operate from your mind.
Yeah.
And the machine cannot arrange the machine. So you need somebody else, or you need to read something, or you need a new vision that guides you how to do that.
And this is why my question is, in your perspective, how can we put our energy or switch our energy into things that we can control, as you said?
Yeah, it's a matter of discipline. And discipline goes stronger with the practice. For instance, nowadays you would be surprised, but there are many people cultivated who are unable to read a book. Why? Because our attention is so distracted in so many things that they start reading, and after 3 lines they need to look at the cell phone, they need to go here, there, and the email, and their brain go in all directions. So if you want to disciplinate your attention, what you have to do is meditating with a book in your hands, and you say, okay, in these 30 minutes I am exclusively reading this book, and every time I get out I will say, come back to the book, come back. So if you practice every day, you can have a better control of your mind. Also, of course, doing a mindfulness program, it's a program of 8 weeks, is called MBSR, Mindfulness Based in Stress Reduction. You can know better your brain, and when something happens and you are out of control, you can see that, and then you can unattach from your thoughts. It's a matter of practice.
And how do you think Ikigai can help with focusing your energy more on things that are productive for your life?
Yes. When you find your Ikigai, there is a lot of flow. And flow brings focus. And focus brings attention and happiness. So let's see some examples.
Yeah.
If your Ikigai is playing piano and you are a jazz pianist, and this is what you love, and this is for you the most important thing in the world, when you are playing the keys, you cannot think in anything else, because even also in this instrument you use both hands. Left hand is doing one thing, right hand is doing another thing, so you are 100% in that. So you are in a state of flow, totally concentrated, totally focused, out of time, and so you don't have time to think of that. It happens the same with the good marathon runners. When they are training for having some good mark in a marathon, all the energy is used in doing that. So you must find some activity that doesn't allow to think.
I think the problem that a lot of people have is that they don't know what they want to do. Because I talk to a lot of people, and a question that I often get, I guess you as well, is like, but how did you got the idea to write a book, or right? Or how did you got the idea to do the podcast? Like, how did it start? Like, why did you do it? Because in the beginning it was just a thought, right? And so they don't know what they like to do, and they don't know, basically, if we go back to Ikigai, they don't know what they love.
Yes.
So what can help to find what you love?
If you are young, it's normal that you don't know your Ikigai, or maybe you have some clue, but you don't know exactly what is your Ikigai. That's normal. It's very uncommon for a child, for a teenager who knows, okay, I am going to do this for the rest of my life. This is a process of trial and mistake. And so you must try many different ways so that you find something that is meaningful for you. So what I would say to anybody who is listening to us, to this conversation, if right now you don't know what to do with your life, maybe you're going to start focusing on what you hate. For instance, when I was going to university, I was from a humble family and I was working at the same time. And all jobs that I had in offices, I was unhappy there. I didn't like getting to a place in front of the computer, having a schedule, writing reports. I was not happy there. So if in every office where I worked, I was unhappy, it means that my Ikigai is in a place exactly the opposite. That means being a freelance, moving, being today here, tomorrow there. This is a clue. Second thing, remember who you were when you were a child, because children are naturally connected with Ikigai. You see in a park girls and boys, and you see that one is singing or the other is very physical, and this is playing magical tricks, and this other is reading in a private place. So if you remember who you were as a kid and what were your dreams, what were your plans, it can be an important clue also. Examine what gives you flow. If there is something that takes you out of time, it could be your Ikigai also. And I would say try to have more experiences, because normally when you are apathic, when you are bored, it happens because you are doing every day the same. You see the same people, you go to the same places, maybe you are going to your job and then you watch TV, and then in the weekend you go to this group of people. So try to innovate from there. Go to see other people, make a little trip to some other place, go to a college, go to a conference. So if you brought your comfort zone, if you go to other places, there are more possibilities that something happen.
So the more you try, the higher the probability that you will find something that you really love.
Yes, and it's, if you know a lot of different people, and you read a lot of books, and you watch documentaries, and you volunteer for different projects, you have a lot of inputs, and it can happen then that something flashes inside you, and you say, okay, I think it could be a way for me, and then you can try that. But I always explain to young people, Ikigai is not going to find you in the couch, is not going to find you in the screen of your cell phone. You must go to the world and explore and to have some adventure to find it.
I found it very interesting what you said about what did we like to do as a child. And I mean, I think I have kind of found my passion with the podcast. At the same time, I told you before, I'm also struggling. We are all struggling sometimes, you know. It's about time. We will talk about that later. But what I remember, for example, I want to take myself as an example for other people. So me, for example, as a child, I really liked animals. And especially, I really liked birds.
Wow.
I was, and within the birds, I really liked the eagles and the birds that, what's the name in English? The
eagles, yes.
Yeah, the eagles.
Birds of prey.
You know,
birds of prey.
Yeah, birds of
prey.
Prey.
Birds
Yes,
of prey.
Birds of prey. Thank you. Because they were kind of aesthetic. They were like the kings of the air. I think I saw kind of freedom in them. Yeah. And I knew all the races. Like I could see a bird on the sky and I could tell you this is the name of the bird, this is the measurement. So I was really into this. I was also very obsessed as a child. I always had this character. Like my mom, she told me I was the only child you could put in front of an aquarium and I would sit there for 1 hour and stare at it.
So maybe there is a hidden passion there, and sometime in your life you will recover it.
Yeah, but my question is, because this is something I haven't figured out, and maybe you can give me a hint. Like, okay, I had this passion for birds, for animals. I had this thing I can just sit and stare at things and be fascinated about them. You know, what does it tell me about myself?
I think if you like birds, it's because you feel free, and birds represent freedom, and you like to fly with your mind to other places. So it's not casual. Carl Gustav Jung would say a lot about that. If you love birds, it's because your soul is like a bird, and maybe you should learn more from them. And like Jonathan Siegel, do your own way.
What was it for you as a child? What were you fascinated in, and what do you see nowadays when you think about it?
When I was a child, I was fascinated by the moon. So I wanted to be an astronaut because by that time, there was like an optimism that the moon would be like part of the human Earth, and that we could go there to a hotel or to explore or to go to other worlds. And then the spatial career interrupted and nothing happened there. But I remember that I was quite obsessed with the moon, also with the cats. And my main obsession were travels. I wanted to travel. Maybe because my father, who was a very mysterious man, he didn't talk. He was a very silent person. He traveled alone. He didn't want to make holidays with me and my sister and my mother. We went with my mother, maybe to Mallorca, because we had family there. And then, this was in August. In September, October, my father took holidays for himself, and he disappeared to communist countries, to the south of Sweden, to different places. And then he came back with some objects from these trips. And maybe because of that, because even if you don't have a good relationship with your father, you take a lot from him. I was obsessed with traveling like him.
Okay. And we talked now about this part of what you love. What is another part of Ikigai that, in your experience, because I know you're giving a lot of workshops and you're in a lot of interviews, what is the part that a lot of people are struggling with?
Yes, the problem is, I will tell you with an space astronomic example. Now we saw a very nice reports about this Artemis 2 coming back to the moon and all this. And speaking in California with a Hungarian coach, he told me that there are many people who want to change planet A by planet B. Planet A is where your life is now. Maybe you are bored, maybe you are unhappy, maybe you are stressed, and you dream like flying to the moon or flying to another planet. But what is the main problem in this trip? Gravity. So if you study the conditions of this adventure with Artemis 2, most of the energy, most of fuel was spent to abandon Earth. You are fighting against gravity, and when you are out of gravity, then you can fly with a smaller ship, and everything is easier. The same happens with change in life. When you have an established life, there is a lot of gravity there, and gravity is the money you earn, the people you are working with, what society expects from you, your followers, your family, your habits, the hierarchy you have in there. So to abandon all that, to do something really different, is like a rocket breaking with the gravity on Earth. So the first thing you must do is to be a bit crazy and to have a plan. To have a plan to say, okay, I am going to do that, although I am scared, although many people will say that I am crazy, and stick to the plan and see what happens. And that's why there are so many people who are unhappy with their lives, but they don't risk doing something else because they think they are going to lose what they got. So to know a different reality, you must assume that you are going to lose everything and start from scratch. My experience, I was fighting many years when I was studying philology, and then I did a master to work in the publishing industry. I had a very big struggle to become a fixed position as a publisher in a good company. I got that, and when I was there, the atmosphere, the human atmosphere, was horrible. People were doing mobbing all the time. There was a lot of aggressivity, a lot of isolation. I was very sad there. And it came a moment in which I was waking up in the middle of the night. I was like when you are a kid and Sunday evening, you have this Sunday blues that I don't want to go to school. I didn't want to go to the office.
Yeah.
And I thought, if you don't break with this, even you have a very good salary in this, you're going to be depressed. Because depression normally comes for two reasons that actually are the same. You feel depressed because you are in a place where you shouldn't be, or you are depressed because you aren't in the place where you should be.
Yeah.
Actually, it's the same. And then what I did was send everything to hell. I resigned, and I did something that is very typical. I went to India with very little money. I was a couple of months knowing people, other travelers, gurus. I wrote there my first book. And then I came back, but without money. I remember receiving a letter in my mailbox with a notice to abandon the apartment because I was not paying since 3-4 months. So in the beginning, you must to risk. But if you stick in your plan, then new people will come, new opportunities, and in the end, you will be happier.
I told you that before I started the podcast, or meanwhile, I was working a lot with Ikigai. So I'm super happy to be here with you today.
Thank you very much for having me here.
It's a pleasure. And I think what I figured out now is it's not a static thing. Like, it's not that you figure it out once and then it's perfect, right? It's very fluid, I think, because your life changes or develops, and I think with it, it's important to constantly reevaluate, like, what do I really love? Like, am I still serving? And because some people might maybe think now, okay, I will check this. Maybe then I will be brave. I will change my life to the way I want, and then it's fine. But in my experience, I don't know how you think about it. It's a constant reevaluation of life, right? Not to be like super mental, but you will feel it. I think you will feel it when it's not aligned anymore.
Yes, actually, Ikigai is not forever. You can have an Ikigai and you can lose it. Actually, a German intellectual, Rudolf Steiner, he said that life changes dramatically every 7 years. He talked about septenniums. I don't know in German how he said that. And he said from 0 to 7 is the little child. From 7 to 14 is almost the teenager. There is sexuality there. From 14 to 21, orientation to career. So if every 7 years we change, it's normal that our Ikigai can change also. And so maybe something that made sense in the past, it doesn't make it anymore.
Yeah.
And you love to do that, but maybe you have already learned and you have already given everything you had to give. And then you need something else, and maybe you don't have it yet. And you have to cross the desert and get lost and find new things. So especially with creative people, it's normal that during their lives, they have 7, 8, 10 Ikigais. I am in my 5th one right now. Yes.
Okay. How did it develop for you? Like, can you explain, because this is very interesting for me. Like, your first to now, like,
yes,
how did it develop?
My first Ikigai was not a practical Ikigai, was traveling. And I had this obsession with traveling, maybe because of my father, maybe by curiosity. And so I worked in everything, waiter, courier, in the office, teacher, to get some money and buy an Interrail pass. And I went here and there and volunteered and worked in NGOs, and I was always outside. So it was a first Ikigai, traveling. And with 27, I had during 2-3 years the Ikigai of teaching language, German language. And I discovered after 2-3 years that I was not good enough, because to be a good language teacher, you must be very good at repeating the same. And I got bored of myself listening to me explaining the accusative, dative, all this. I was not that kind of person. And then I had a third Ikigai as a publisher. It was ruined because of the human atmosphere in the place where I was working. In the end, I hated that. A fourth one as a writer. And I would say that the fifth Ikigai of my life chose me. I haven't chosen myself, but I found myself doing that. And it's giving lectures and giving interviews and writing articles to help other people to find their reason to live.
It's interesting for me because I felt like, and I told you before, 2-3 years ago, I found my Ikigai doing the podcast. And now 3 years later, I'm a successful podcaster, but I don't feel like I'm in my Ikigai anymore.
Because maybe for you, the energy was in getting it. And
Yeah.
you are like Richard Branson. If you examine his life, his career, when he established a business, he needed to make another one. Because of that, he had a record store and airlines and telephones and many different things. So you are that kind of person that maybe you need to build, to give it to others, and to build something different. You are a creator.
My feeling is, my goal was to have the podcast. This was my biggest dream.
But it's already done.
And now it's here. And I see my life the last 2-3 years, and I just spent a lot of time working. I was just working a lot. And now I was in Barcelona here for 2 weeks, also to have some time off, and I'm combining it with work. And I realized also the vibe in the city is like, I would say, very warm. People are going out, having coffee, beer. It's warmer than in Germany. And I feel like, okay, people are living life. And I felt like, oh, this is something I'm missing. And I think the word that I'm choosing for this is to feel vivid, you know?
Vivid is a nice word.
Yeah. This is what I was missing the last 2-3 years. I was performing. It was like an athlete, you know? I was performing, like having so many interviews, figuring everything out with the technicians and so on and so forth. And now I feel like I lost a bit my Ikigai because I don't have that much time anymore for myself. I didn't have that much time anymore for my relationships. And I'm missing that. And I think the shift is now, and I'm still figuring it out. We talked about it before. I was living for the podcast. But now I think it's possible that the podcast takes care for me that I can live again.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
But what happens with you is the risk of making of your passion a profession. When I was in university, I had a friend who was working in the airport in a private part with the charter flights for the soccer clubs. And he was there seeing like Football Club Barcelona and other players were flying to some other city to have a football match. And he said, you should see their faces. They are like, I don't want to go to the office. Why? Because it's an obligation. When you do something that you do it by your heart because you like it, it's one thing. But when it's an obligation to do that, then you lose freedom, you lose the magic sometimes to do that. And you must be very strong to reinvent yourself and find a way that it sounds fresh again.
Yeah. This reinventing process, I think this is what I'm especially interested right now. Let's take just my case as an example. We have a lot of different examples here. You also told you about your life as an example. But my example, for example, okay, you build a business, which is at the same time your passion. It's successful, but you don't feel really like fulfilled. What do you think can people do if they're like in a similar situation? Yeah. So they did something where they thought, oh, this is my dream. Could also be like build a house, found a family, whatever. And then they're at this point and they feel like, actually, it fulfilled me for a certain time, but now I'm there and I feel like I need to reinvent myself, but I don't know how. Like, also I can see a lot of possibilities. Like,
Yes.
how I'm going to do that?
But I see it clearly. People like you, what you love is movement. You don't want to arrive to some place or to get this done. Maybe what keeps you alive is to be moving from here to there, reinventing, doing new things. So I would say that this kind of mindsets, this kind of mentalities, they need constant reinvention. And insatisfaction is part of the pack. You will be never satisfied, and that's your genius. That's your vitamin to do all this. Steve Jobs was exactly like that. He was creating a new product for Apple, and one day before the launching, he said, no, it cannot be like this. And he was improving all the time. Actually, this is a Japanese mentality called takumi. That is that you are never happy with the things as they are. You can do it different or better. And that's what allows science and creativity to go forward. It's not bad.
But don't you think, this is my struggle, for example. I think if I reinvent now or if I move, I will lose something, because for example, to have the podcast super successful, I think you need to be in a place. There was also a saying I heard once from David Goggins. That's a famous guy in America, an athlete and a guy from the military. And he said also, like, if you want to build something, you have to stay in one place. I can put my signature onto this. Like, I was staying in one place and I was really being very dedicated, having a lot of concentration. And now I'm afraid, and this might be also for other people, that we're in one place building something, and then now they have the feeling, I want to leave this place. It doesn't have to be leave super far, but maybe just switch the city or switch something in your life. You're afraid to lose something.
But we are losing things all the time. It's part of life. We are losing friends, we are losing love, we are losing parents, we are losing energy, vitality. So the art of living is the art of losing things, and we're leaving things behind. So now I remember a very good friend of mine who is an entrepreneur went to MIT to a master for people with very big businesses. And he got to be there because he was part of a higher organization. And what he learned is that the aim of every leader, of every entrepreneur, is substitute yourself. So when you get somebody doing what you created, the job is done. And then you can go or to create a second thing, or maybe you have a more representative role in there. So that maybe sometimes you can be there for some important things, but you create things so that other people can run them. And this is your legacy. And that's interesting because another person of the business world told me, if you create a company and after 8 years, you are the one who works more, you are stupid. Your aim is to read the newspaper so that everybody is doing that, and sometimes go for the important meetings. If you are working more than your employees, there is something that you didn't do well.
That's interesting, because I talked also yesterday with an employee from my team, and she told me, in Germany, there's kind of the mentality, the CEO has to be in the company all the time, And you're not telling me the opposite. You're not telling me
freak.
Yeah.
Yes. But I think you can still be important if you are not all the time in the micromanagement. If you hire good people, you will save energy to have more ideas, to be in the important meetings, to open new visions. But if you are controlling what everybody is doing, then you are a kind of a slave of yourself.
It's true. You told me that there are different kind of ikigais as well. You're also writing a book right now that will be published in summer, right?
Yes.
The Ikigai of money. And you also told me that there's, for example, the Ikigai of spirituality. I'm interested to go into these. Like, maybe we can just switch to the Ikigai of money because it's a topic related to what we said before. What is the Ikigai of money?
Yes. It's a book about making money out of your passion. And this is two kind of people who are interested in this book. People who have a personal project. Maybe you want to create a startup, or maybe you want to create a small business, or open a shop, open a cafe, a restaurant, or something bigger. Or maybe you want to change profession. The most famous psychologists in Spain had different jobs before. One of them was an actor, a theater actor, and the other was working in the bank. So the Ikigai of money is also, if you are in planet A, you don't know how to go to planet B, and then you need some strategy. And to do that book, we interviewed many people, also in the Silicon Valley, which really switched their life into something different. And we analyze the different methods and the different routes to go from one place to the other. So it's not a book about money, but a book about make of your passion your own living.
And by making your passion or by making money with your passion, what, in your experience, is the point where most people are struggling to realize this?
The main difficulty is that people think in short term. So people see you in YouTube, in Instagram, and they say, Leon is very successful. I will start a podcast tomorrow. And after 1 month, 2 months, they have 200 followers, and they say, it was not a good idea. They don't have a midterm way of thinking, because we live in a moment in history in which people think that they can buy everything with a click. With a click, you buy a book in Amazon, you have an appointment in Tinder, and you can do many things. But big projects are not like that. So if you don't think that you need from 2 to 4, 5 years to accomplish what you are doing, you cannot develop any Ikigai, because then you will be always in very small projects. Maybe you can sell a product in the internet, put a lot of money in marketing, maybe you make some benefit, but it won't be something important. It will be something of the moment. So you need a plan, you need something that can benefit society, and you need to think, what will you do in 2 years, in 3 years, in 5 years? And that's what young people don't do.
I think two important points that you said. For me personally, the intention setting is one of the most important ones that you also mentioned. So me, for example, in the beginning with the podcast, I don't know how it was for you, but I listened to some successful podcasters, and I heard them saying, some of them, it took 5 years until they got their first money from the podcast.
It's possible, yes.
And my big goal was not to make a lot of money with the podcast. It was more like, I just wanted to do it, but I want to be able to live from it, so I could put my energy into it, because I knew this is what I wanted to do. So of course I needed some money. And I had this expectation, I will give my energy for 5 years. That was very long term,
Yes,
like
but if
5 years is a lot.
If you are not able to give your energy for 5 years, then it's a hobby. It's not a passion. And there is a big difference.
The thing is, people study for 3 years, for 5 years, for 7 years, and then to be able to get a job, right?
Yes.
And then they want to do something on their own, and they want to have it immediately. It's the same. You need to study first to be successful, right?
If you want to speak Spanish, you need to invest some years of your life. Or if you want to become a professional writer, even if you have the talent, you won't make money with the first books. Maybe with the 4th, 5th, 6th, you need 4, 5, 10 years, and maybe you get your first bestseller. But the secret is that you must love doing that without money also. So I always, when I see somebody who is very talented, for instance, acting, my piece of advice is, do it for free in the beginning. Everybody must know that you are good at that. Yeah. And if you do it for free and you have visibility, opportunity will come. Yeah. But don't expect money to come in the first time. For instance, in Barcelona, I am in the vibe of the alternative concerts. I know many places where secret concerts are, underground bands and this. And the other day, a very young band said, Francesc, where could we play? We do that. And I said, go to that place. And they said, and how much money are we going to receive? I said, in the beginning, 0, because nobody knows.
Yeah.
Maybe
That's true.
in 6 months, some money comes.
Yeah. No,
So that's the logic. Money comes after. First,
Yeah.
you must be the best possible in what you do. You must think of the law of the 10,000 hours of Malcolm Gladwell, that if you want to be a master, you need to dedicate your life to that.
you need to create value first, and then
Yes.
value comes back.
Yes.
Right? And me, it was the same. I was investing so much money into equipment. I was like driving to other cities, and I was losing money for the podcast all the time until
Was
I had
an
almost
investment. Yes.
until I had almost no more money. Really, like
Yeah.
I was like on my limit, you know.
It happens when in all Ikigai stories, there is a moment in which you are very near to abandon. It happened with NVIDIA. With NVIDIA, the microchip company, they were in bankrupt. They couldn't pay materials in 1-2 months. And Sega, the video game company, they lent them money so that they could provide the chips. But they were about to close. And now is the most valuable company in the world.
Another thing that helped me a lot, so I had these two kind of visualizations, right? I told myself, okay, 5 years. Another one was, there's like a kind of a U-curve of motivation when you do something, whatever you want to do. You will be pretty enthusiastic when you start. You know,
Yes.
the U-curve is going up.
It's easy to start.
Yeah.
It's difficult to
Exactly.
go on.
Yeah, and then it goes down.
It happens.
And actually, at the point in the middle from where you started to where you, what you define as successful is successful, you be at the lowest point. And then when you get towards your success, it goes up again. So it's like a U-curve. And I had this in mind, and I swear, for me, it was true. In the middle, like at the beginning, I was motivated. In the middle of starting and being successful for what means for me successful, I was at the lowest point. And I think this is where a lot of people give up, because they're maybe not aware that this is a very normal, it's a normal process. So what I'm also trying to say is, I think it's good to be aware that good things take time and that your motivation will not always be there. You know, like the U-curve, to visualize it for me in the hardest times, I was like, okay, you there right now. You get out of there. Help me so much.
Yes, that's the thing. When you are making some new project, you live from the good news. And maybe in the beginning, the good news is that you started. But then you need some feedback. And sometimes you have positive feedback that gives you motivation, but sometimes nothing happens. And so here you must maintain a marathon mentality. You must think, when you run a marathon, I am not that kind of guy,
Me too.
but I know people who do it. You must run when you have energy, when you don't have energy, when you want, when you don't want. And the same writing a book. When you want to write a 200 pages book, you must write every day, even when you would do something different, because you don't have the desire to do that. So you must be quite mental with that, and to have this mindset that I am going to do that even if I don't like it anymore, even if I don't love. And you put a deadline maybe, and to say, okay, let's see by this date if I got what I hope that it could be. And I did it as a writer, you know. In the beginning, when I changed my position as a publisher for a freelance writer, in the beginning was very difficult with the money. I had to do a lot of jobs related with writing. I was ghostwriter, I wrote under pen name, I was teaching creative writing, I was coaching other authors. I was working like 15 hours a day from Monday to Sunday. And I reached a point in which I said, I am 35. If with 40 I am not living well from my books, I am going to quit that, and I am going to do something else. And this ultimatum was useful for me, because then I activated new ideas to think, okay, maybe you are thinking too small. You should be more ambitious. let's write a book for everybody in this fucking world. Not only for Catalonia, not only for Spain, not only for the people who are like you. And it makes all the difference.
And then you told me that there is an Ikigai of spirituality as well.
Yes.
What is it about?
Yes. Many people have two Ikigais. They have a professional Ikigai and a more spiritual, alternative, or altruistic Ikigai. And we find many cases. In the German world, Franz Kafka was daytime a very good lawyer of a company, Assicurazioni Generali. Then he went home, big siesta, and writing until very late at night. And he wrote all these masterpieces that we know. He was having two lives in one. And these two lives were interrelated because what he wrote in his novels, it came from experiences from the court and all this. Albert Einstein, he had a professional Ikigai that was physics, but he had an artistical one that was playing violin. And he was not a very good violinist, but he traveled always with the violin. And when he was dry of ideas, he played and he felt that it was flowing. So it's good, I would say, in our lives to have an Ikigai related with money, with career, with profession, and another Ikigai that is only for us, that has no relation at all with success, with social expectations, all this, because you can find a balance if you have both.
And how could that look like practically?
Practically would be that, for instance, if you create a company, your aim should be to work every year less, to delegate in other people, so that in the end, maybe you can be 4 or 5 hours there, and the rest of the day, you can compensate with this B plan, with this B planet, that maybe one day this explodes, and then you can only do that because you have become famous as a writer, or you are prepared to do something else. So I would say that these simultaneous Ikigais, the aim would be to do less of one thing, more of the other, so that if you wish it, you can switch in the end.
I'm trying to visualize the spiritual Ikigai part, because I haven't really understood, like, for business I understood.
Yes, for Einstein, the spiritual Ikigai was violin. For Kafka, it was writing. For other people, it's maybe yoga, it's maybe mindfulness, it's maybe working for an NGO where you are helping children.
So it's a specific, it's something specific.
It's
what
something
I do.
that you do for other people without money.
Okay.
I have a spiritual Ikigai that is very small.
Yeah.
So I am not psychologist, but I play this role with many friends and with unknown people even. I receive hundreds of mails, and maybe some mails every week are from people thinking of suicide, young people.
Oh, really?
So I have a spiritual Ikigai that is when a young person writes me and says that he or she is thinking about abandoning this world, I contact them. Maybe if they give the telephone number, we have a conversation, we have a Zoom, I send a book. And for me, this is a spiritual Ikigai because I know what is suffering. I was in a very bad mental condition in other parts of my life. I can understand them. I can know what they feel. And for me, it's very fulfilling when you talk with somebody with these ideas.
Yeah.
And 6 months after, he writes you and he says, I am better. And I am doing this. And I have a couple. So it brings all the meaning to your life. So sometimes it's better not to be paid.
So this was my question, like, why is it so important to also have a look at this spiritual Ikigai where we're not paid for things? So is the meaning part?
It's a meaning part. So what I have experienced, I have given lectures in many places, in prisons. I was into a prison to open the academical year. So I discovered how life is in a prison. They study kind of gymnasium. They have different things, professional teachings. So when I finished with my speaking, there were some students, 4 or 5, who wanted to speak with me. All of them have plans to help other people. They said, when I come out of here, I will create a program for prisoners who come out to do that. I'm going to write a book. I want to do that. Then I discovered that the main drive of every human being is help the others, is give a service to society, is help to release suffering. The problem is that many people don't find the way because they don't know themselves. To do that, first, you must know what is your talent. For instance, I have a talent for listening to any kind of people, especially if they are suffering. I can put questions, I can listen, I can show some alternative ways. So if you know that you have that, actually, the happier you will feel is when you help a single human being that is in trouble.
I asked you before the interview, like, what is the thing that you're especially looking into at the moment and that you're kind of struggling with, right?
Yeah.
And you told me this thing is time.
Yes, I am struggling with time because I am chaotic. For instance, I don't have a Google Calendar or a Apple Calendar.
Yeah.
I have a Word file where I write the things I must do. But
I would never imagine.
yeah. So it's a chaos, and I am too optimistic with the calendar, and I put too many things in a single day.
Yeah.
So in the end, you say, okay, you wanted to do 20 things, you did 6. What shall we do with this 14?
And it doesn't feel fulfilled, right?
Yeah.
It's like,
and you are a bit stressed, and in the end, you must learn to live without answering many emails and with things that maybe you are not going to do them. But I think my main struggle is managing time, because it's very difficult to manage time. There is a book of Oliver Burkeman, I think that's the name, called 4,000 Hours. I think this is the title. And he says, the art of managing time is not saying no to the things that you don't like, because this is very easy. Managing time is saying no to things that you like, but you should prioritize. Say, okay, I would do this and this and this and this, but maybe these two are the priorities, and the other things maybe in another life.
it's kind of a luxury problem, I think, as well, because I mean, you're also in the privileged position to have a lot of offers, of course, and then I know this as well, and then you're like, oh, I had this a few months ago. I had so many great interview partners that I can interview. I was like, okay, I planned 12 interviews in I think it was 15 days or something like this. It was way too much. But I was like, I want to seize the opportunity. You know, I want to see these people. They're all very interesting. I got sick. After the interviews, I got sick, and I felt super bad, you know, because I didn't have time for myself, didn't have time for my relationships and everything. So I want to say it's kind of a privileged space to have these opportunities, but it's very true. Like, you have to say no to things,
yes,
because otherwise you will not feel good, and it also doesn't serve the other person as well.
Yes,
that's also a point.
You lower your quality as a human being and your quality of life. So it's better to be more minimalistic, to do less things and with more heart and in a better way. Even with relationships, if you have 50 friends, you cannot give good attention to the 50. But if you have 3 or 4, maybe you can take good care of them,
and the relationship will be deeper.
Yes, deeper, of course.
And for me, the deepness is what is valuable and what creates joy.
I think the German people, they are talented in that. When I lived in Germany, I was very enthusiastic about the concept of Stammtisch. So a place where the old friends once a week meet. You know why it's so important to keep in touch with the old friends? Because they remember how you were when you were younger.
That's true.
So every time you find them, you meet them, they have anecdotes, they have stories that you are still that person, but maybe you are forgetting that.
they know the different versions of
Yes,
you. And they can
and
remember you.
Yes, they are like a looking glass that also inside you is the kid, is the teenager, it's everybody.
Yeah. I want to come back to this topic of time. So what does time means for you, and as a successful author as well, who's like busy, and tomorrow you're flying to LA to have some more things there. Because as a young person, I would say in the 20s, you're not thinking of time. You think you have endless time,
Yes.
Now with 30, I'm starting to realize, okay, time is valuable,
Yes.
it's and for example, I worked very hard for 2-3 years, and I'm realizing, okay, I'm not 20 anymore, I just got 30. And
I always say that time is a kind of currency that gets more value with the age. When you are 15, you can lose a whole Sunday. There's no problem, because you think that you are going to live forever, or unconsciously you act like that. When you are 50, when you lose an hour with somebody that you are not interested in that person, you feel bad because you put 1 hour to the rubbish. So this currency of time will be every time more important because scarcity creates value. And now you are very young still, but when you are 40, I think you will be more strict with the way you give your hours to other people.
And what would you tell that 30, maybe also 25 or 35 years old Francesc about time?
Yes. When I was 20, 25, I think I had lots of time. I traveled a lot. I was always in small concerts, and afterwards playing with bands and with friends. I think I did a good use of time. For instance, I didn't finish my studies in 4 years. I did it in 11 years because I was interrupting university all the time to go to an NGO. I worked during the Balkan Wars in refugee camps. So I don't think I am more troubled of how I spend my time nowadays. Sometimes I am 3 hours in front of the email, and most of the email answers are saying, I cannot go there, I cannot go. So saying no all the time is not very nice. So I think I need to rethink my relationship with time.
And what do you think, what kind of patterns do you see when in the relationship from people to time? Like me, for example, I'm thinking about it. Like I told you, I come from a part of my life where time was like, I was not thinking about time. I just start to think about it recently with the age. I mean, 30 is just a number, right? But at the same time, I don't know why. I think it's because of society. When I turned 30, I was like, okay, the 20s are over, And I can see my friends getting married, like maybe getting kids,
But 30 is the new 20.
It's
Before, so 50 years ago, the midlife crisis was with 30. Now it's with 50. With 50, there are people who remarry, change. So you are a kid in our present way of, because it's very probable that you will become 100. So you are in the first third of your life.
Really?
Yes.
Did you have your midlife crisis? Did you have a midlife crisis?
Yeah, I had crises in all the stages of my life because I was always a philosophical kid in existential crisis. I've always felt like an alien, that I didn't fit anywhere. So, for instance, when I was very young, I had one friend or no friends at all. And I was reading books, I am in my room, I was dreaming of things. Afterwards, I became very social, but I still feel very different even from my closest friends. I feel I come from another planet, and this is not something to be arrogant, but that I feel that I don't fit in what the people normally do. But then when you feel like that, it's very important that you identify where you can be useful. Because if you can be useful, to other people, then you establish connection. And if you establish a connection, then you are nearer. You are not so alien anymore.
I'm still trying to figure out, what are you going to tell the 20-year-old Francesc about
Yes.
time? Like,
Yes.
So
My main piece of advice wouldn't have to do with time, but yes, everything is time. Everything is paid with time. What I would say to the Francesc who was 20 years old is, don't fall in love with people you don't know, because this is the main mistake all the young people do.
what does it mean?
You are in a classroom or in university or in a bar, I don't know, and you fall in love with somebody, but you don't know who this girl
Like
is.
fall in love, like with a like romantically?
Yeah, romantically.
Okay.
Romantically, yes. You fall in love, you are thinking obsession, like an obsession of a boy, of a girl.
Yeah.
And then you imagine all kind of things that this
Yeah.
person has. It's a fantasy, it's a projection of something that is in yourself. And you can lose a lot of years with that. Actually, I was quite a romantic boy, the kind of writing love letters and all these kind of things. I was like a Werther of 20th century.
Mhm.
And what I discovered was that I was writing, that I was putting a lot of energy in people who didn't be the way I thought. So I would say, don't spend too much energy in love. Put energy in being a good friend of men and women. Think what you need for yourself, because the problem of young people is that they have very low self-esteem, and so you expect the self-esteem coming so that you are chosen by a person, by a romantic partner, or maybe that you are successful and today you have many followers. Actually, what you must do when you are very young is to know yourself better, and when you identify something that you can be very good at that, put all your energy that, and it will bring you self-esteem, because then you will feel powerful, and maybe other people will come to you, but you won't be after girls or boys or people that must give you I follow you.
You said don't fall in love with people you don't know,
Yes.
but do we have a choice?
Yes, we have the choice. So to understand that no matter how beautiful a person is, it's exactly like you. Well, now I have a couple, but when I see a very beautiful woman, I see her as my sister, because I think she's insecure as me. She goes to the toilet like me. She has maybe financial problems like I had.
Yeah.
She doesn't know what to do with her life. So there is not a big difference. We are all brothers and sisters. And if you see it that way, it's much easier to relate with others, to listen, to understand, and to have good relationships in general. Not to idealize anybody.
So maybe the message is also to disconnect a bit from the superficiality.
Yes.
And to get to know someone.
To go
and
to
fall
see
in love into that,
to
right?
see the human being. I don't like even talking about men and women. I like talking about persons, about human beings, and to understand that everybody needs to be loved, to be seen, to be important for others, to find a purpose, to have impact into the world. So if you understand that everybody is in the same struggle, it's easier to relate with them, and it's more difficult to enter into conflict.
I think I have friends that are struggling also with relationships since a long time. It's always the same pattern. I'm thinking of one friend of mine. She always falls in love very easily also with men, but they're never like healthy for her. And I think that she's just looking for something that is lacking on
Yes.
another side.
Because these are fantasies, and normally what you're looking in the other is something that you have yourself, but that you are not seeing. Maybe you are looking for a partner that is very sensitive and has a very artistic point of view in life that is original. Maybe you are all that, but you are seeing that only in the others, and you should. It's like a mirror effect. What you are looking in others, there are things that you have with yourself in your kit for life. So it's better that you find it, and you all the things that you're looking outside, you find it inside, and then you will have healthier relationships.
How do you mean? Like if I find a woman very attractive,
Yeah,
for example, I like
that's
her,
okay.
I like her visuals, but also her creativity. Maybe she's kind of a energetic person, so and so on and so forth. What does that tell about me? Because you're saying that it's a
That's
mirror.
good.
Yeah.
All the people, we like beautiful things and beautiful people. So even if you see a man or a woman, if you see somebody that physically is extraordinary, you are going to look at it.
Mm.
And if it happens the same in a museum with a beautiful landscape or with a sky. There is nothing bad about that. The problem is when you admire this man and this woman and you feel that you are less and you should to do something extraordinary to be in the same level. So if I was here sitting with the most extraordinary and beautiful woman or man in the planet, I would say, how can I help you? What is your problem? And it brings us to a horizontal relationship.
I'm trying to understand, like, what does it has to do? Like, if I admire something, why is a lack involved in myself?
No, in admiration there is distance. We can admire Rosalia, but we don't know who is Rosalia. I was in the concert. It was wonderful. I loved it. But who is her? I think it's much more important than admiring Rosalia. If I had the chance to be a friend with her, I would love to know what are her fears.
Yeah.
What does she need? What is she lacking to getting all this attention? No, so the human part of it. So I admire my friends, my best friends. All of them have different talents. So when somebody is very funny, I admire him for that. But it doesn't mean that I put this person on the top and that I am in a different level. We have different gifts to give.
So when is the book Ikigai coming for relationships?
I think somebody wrote already about that, but I don't think you need an Ikigai for relationships. I think Ikigai is more a personal compass that indicates in which direction goes your life, how do you want to serve the others, and how do you want to be remembered the day you are not here anymore.
In the end of the podcast, we always ask the same question as a tradition. Imagine you could send out one sentence to the people here in Barcelona or also in Germany. Which sentence would that be?
I would say follow your passions, because it sounds very simple, but very few people is doing that, because we give more importance to compromise, to obligation, to what the society expects from us, to our inner passion. So follow your dreams, follow your passions. It's not a topic. The only way to be authentic is that you are in your own life, not in the life of other people.
Francesc, where can people find you?
They can find me in Instagram and in my webpage that is quite abandoned in the last months, but nowadays is very easy. I think in Instagram page would be enough and they can find me.
You can find all the links to Francesc in the biography, also to his book Ikigai. Francesc,
thank you very much.
Thank you,
Leon.
for
It
being
was
here
a
today.
wonderful conversation with unusual questions, and I am very grateful for that.
Thank you for being here.
Thanks.